Hey, welcome back to Music Theory Logic. My name's Andrew, and today's going to be another music theory breakdown where I recreate popular songs so that we can learn a little bit more about music theory. Today's song is going to be the hit single Lemonade by Internet Money featuring Don Toliver, Gunna, and Nav. Apologies if I pronounce any of those names incorrectly. Let's go ahead into our logic session. Here we are in my recreation of this track, Lemonade. If you haven't seen these before, I'm not going to play the original instrumental because I don't want these videos to get taken down for copyright reasons. The instrumental is as close as I could get it to the actual original track. Now, one thing that's happening here is most of what you're going to hear is guitar that I've recorded. I also have charted the same guitar notes into MIDI so that those of you that don't play guitar, we can look at the notes and learn where they come from. Without further ado, let's play the track. Comes our 808s. Little break. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. Obviously, without the vocal, the track sounds pretty empty. I encourage you to, if you haven't heard that song, to pause this and go listen to the original track, Lemonade. Again, the instrumental is only a small piece of what's going on in that track. Obviously, the top vocal lines carry the track in these breakdowns. It's pretty interesting. The beat just cuts out for two measures. The beginning of what is essentially an 8-bar verse. I believe these are different rappers hopping in, trading 8 bars. Cool. Let's go ahead and look at our reference key. So this song is in the key of C sharp minor. C sharp minor has the same notes as its relative major, which is E major. It's 4 sharps. They're going to be in the order from low to high. In this key, C sharp, D sharp, F sharp, and G sharp. So that's the 4 black keys. Once again, if that seems hard to follow and you're in a computer DAW like this, whether it's Logic or Ableton or Fruity Loops, whatever you use, what you could do is you could chart the notes, all the white keys from A to A, and then you could drag that up, and wherever you stop is going to be that parallel or that same scale, just on a new tonic or a new root note. So here it is in C sharp. The notes in C sharp minor are C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, and C sharp. Let's hear that. Nice. I don't know why my automation was soft there. Cool. So it's called a natural minor scale. And our song uses that natural minor. So the chord progression is a 1, that's C sharp minor, has C sharp, E, and G sharp. Then a major 7 that has B, D sharp, and F sharp, or a B major chord. Then then the minor 5, G sharp minor, that's G sharp, B, and D sharp. Finally, we get the major 6, that is A major, A, C sharp, and E. So this is the first introduction to music theory you have. Basically, this scale on the left is the source for all of these notes on the right. Every single note that you see there is one of these 8 different notes you see, or 7 different note names that we have. They're basically created by skipping scale tones. So the one chord, regardless of whatever scale you're in, is always the 1, 3, and 5. The 7 chord would be essentially the 7th note, that B. If we kept going up the scale, we'd find that would be the next note, skipping a root, and then that note skipping. So that's where those chords come from. Cool. That's only a little bit of the instrumental. Now, this instrumental was this track was showed to me by my student Gavin. Shout out to Gavin. He's killing it playing this on the piano right now. And essentially, this track really has like a live guitar feel. So first I'll solo out the main guitar. Actually, I guess what I'll do is I'll play you the MIDI guitar so we can look at it. And then I'll talk about where all these notes come from. Cool. So that does not sound at all like the song. That's why I didn't use that instrumental. I learned the whole thing and I played it on guitar. I will zoom in on this MIDI so you can see the MIDI while the guitar plays the same notes. Cool. So again, it has a human feel, which is the easiest to recreate just by recording that actual live instrument. I don't think you'll ever, at least it's 2021 right now. I don't think in 2021 you can fully recreate a human sounding guitar, especially not in the same amount of time, since this took me all of 10 minutes to record. Cool. So this first section, this is our C sharp minor. We're then going on the fourth quarter note to our B major. We stay on our B major for the second measure. We do this arpeggio run, which is F sharp, D sharp, B. That's from our same chord here, that B major chord, the 7. Then we're going down to this G sharp minor, the same arpeggio pattern, so 1, 3, and then 5 and 1 up an octave happens. And then we're going on the fourth quarter note in the third measure. We're going to our A major chord. We stay on A for the next measure. We do the exact same pattern and an arpeggio on what would be the parallel notes to where this happens. So you can kind of see that this looks very much like a pattern, and it is. The second time that this 4 measures repeats, we get the same thing that happens. The only difference is we have some slightly added fill notes. So there's an octave sound of a B up there. And that's really the only difference that happens. Cool. I'll play that one more time so we can watch this. Actually, watch. Cool. So that covers the main instrument that we're hearing. The second time that 8 measures repeats, we get a second guitar line. Once again, I played this to make it sound more like the song, but I will show you the notes. This is much more of a melody. We are using scale tones in this melody, aside from just a couple notes, or chord tones, I mean. So we're on a C sharp minor. Those 2 notes are in the chord. We're on a B major chord. These 2 notes are on the chord. This one is not, but that is in our scale. And then we stay on B. That note is in our G sharp minor chord. Makes sense. This note is not, but it is in our scale. So let's hear that. Cool. So this secondary layer continues. It's pretty cool, just descending melody. It's somewhat subtle in the track because at the same time that happens, we get our main drums that come in, or the first drums. Cool. So our drum pattern for the first 8 measures doesn't have our kick drum. We have a halftime backbeat, so that backbeat's on beat 3. We're at 140 beats per minute, which is a pretty quick tempo, especially for hip hop. If we were to have a standard backbeat, so on 2 and 4, this very much a common sort of tempo and sound in the last couple years. as a bass music producer, I think of 140 as something we hear a lot of dubstep and trap at, so that totally makes sense. We have some interesting cymbal stuff happening. Notice we have every eighth note, so every other, the whole time we get eighth notes. So that's like the first thing that you would do when you're programming that drum beat. Those just straight eighth notes. Then we have some fills. So the first quarter note, we get 4/16 notes. On that closed hi-hat, we get an open hi-hat at the same time on the 1. Then on the very last measure, we basically get an extra 16th note. Then finally, just like our chord progression, this is repeating on a 2-measure cycle. So the second measure has a slightly different cymbal pattern. We get a 32nd note. It sounds like a trill there. And we get rid of some of the eighth notes to make room for this extra clap sound that's happening on the eighth notes with that backbeat. So I'll play those. Perhaps that's the easiest thing for you to listen to that while we watch. All right, so everything that we just heard and watched repeats. So that is the top hi-hat and other cymbal line, and our backbeat, so the snares and the clap that happens on the last eighth notes of the second measure. We then get the kick drum. The kick drum, interestingly enough, first measures goes just with those first guitar notes or when the chords change. So that's on the 1 and beat 4. We don't get any kicks the second measure. Then we get a dotted half note, a dotted quarter note rhythm here, basically on the 1, the 6th, 8th note, and the final quarter note are kick drums, otherwise known as syncopation. And then at the very end, instead of having the clap sound every other measure at the end of 4, that same rhythm happens on the kick drum. That also happens with this open hi-hat, then closed hi-hat fill. Let's hear that. Cool. So again, that's built up on the first drums that we hear. Nothing crazy is happening there with the kick drum. A lot of that is doubling up instruments or like the guitar notes that we heard. Finally, we're going to get the 808 that comes in. Our 808 is basically following our chord progression, so the root notes. It's going C sharp down to B. It doesn't happen in the second measure, but it basically stays on B. It goes down to G sharp. We get 2 of those. That's the same exact pattern as the kick drum. The first time, the kick's only happening on the 1. But those, again, are what I call the dotted note quarter note. It's the same rhythm we saw in the kick drum with the notes we see in the guitar. Totally makes sense. Then finally, these also follow the root note, so G sharp up to A on the last quarter note. We then get some cool little like syncopation at the very end where we get a kick or an 808 playing the note A on what is this rhythm. Just we don't get the 1, so that's interesting. And then we get that double up, same rhythm with the kick drum. So this 808 is really functioning like a pitched kick drum. It serves to add up to this first instrument that we saw. It has all of those notes, just a couple extra. Nice. Let's hear that while we watch our 808s. Cool. Love the sound of 808s, and so does the world. Again, an 808 in modern terminology is talking about that sound, a pitched sort of kick drum, a low bass sound. However, know your history. An 808 originated with Roland's TR-808, which was a drum machine. That drum machine provided the drum sounds and the actual programming way for a lot of the earlier hip-hop producers. Someday I'm going to have a TR-808 behind glass case just to display for clients that come into my studio. That's been a long time dream of mine. Cool. So we've looked at every sound that we're hearing aside from our pad. Now I'm using a really subtle pad. All it's doing is playing the same exact chord progression. I use this pad in the background just to support everything else that's going on, and I believe I heard the producer of this track doing the same exact thing. So that's following the same chords I showed you in the beginning. It's our C sharp minor, our B major chord, our G sharp minor, and then our major 6th chord, our A major. Cool. So hopefully you found this helpful. We got the chance to look at a lot of interesting music theory. Hopefully it was pretty simple. We saw a natural minor chord scale, our C sharp minor. We saw 4-chord progression. We saw all of those notes repeat throughout the entire beat. This just showcases that we don't need a lot of music theory knowledge, and we could really write that just with our ears. But a little bit of knowledge helps us to link things together, figure out how to write additional layers, and to make a better full product. So hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, you'd help me out by subscribing to the channel. And if you do that, I'll see you guys next time. I hope you have a beautiful day and make some awesome music. Cheers.